Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Honda Accord car. Honda Accord, 8 engines. Honda has not changed its engine design philosophy, which is of great importance to users. 2008 was a period of serious design flaws in many of the competition's powertrains, as well as strong pressure to introduce supercharging to petrol engines. Meanwhile, the Accord was based on proven solutions. The entry-level unit is the 2.0i VTEC, which we'll be looking at here. It has 156 horsepower available at high revs and 192 nanometers of torque. The more powerful version has a capacity of 2.4 liters and 201 horsepower. The 2.2i DTEC diesel, on the other hand, is almost the same engine as the 2.2i CTDI from its predecessor. It was available in two power versions, 150 horsepower and 180 horsepower for the Type S. As I wrote earlier, there were no major changes in the engines in terms of concept, but looking under the hood, it turns out that in the case of the 2-liter, we are dealing with a completely new engine. The predecessor was fitted with the K20 series, while the 8 featured an engine marked R20 with a single camshaft. For the average user, there are no differences. Traces of power and torque have been added, and its characteristics are flatter, which makes it more pleasant to drive at lower revs, and thanks to this, the car burns less. Users claim that from 0.5 to 1L, 100 kilometers. The gear ratios have also been extended, and a 6th gear has been added. What goes wrong in the Honda Accord? 2.0i VTEC. In the context of the 2.0i VTEC engine, this question can be left unanswered or answered unequivocally, nothing. It is impossible to determine typical faults, but it is worth paying attention to the valves, which have mechanical adjustment, and unfortunately, not everyone is aware of this. When servicing the car outside of the authorized service center, you can overlook this very important fact. If you drive on petrol, there is no problem with this, even after 150 kilometers. But if the car is powered by gas, which it is perfectly suited for, the valves may require adjustment after 20 kilometers. If the user forgets about this, problems will begin first with the regular operation of the engine, then with the cylinder head. One note to close this topic. Finding a mechanic who will do this fairly simple task is not easy, which seems absurd. These are the facts. That is why I propose one of 3 solutions. Doing it yourself, the cheapest option, and it is not difficult. Finding a specialist with a good reputation. This may be the most expensive option with travel. Reporting to ASO, objectively the most expensive option. I do not recommend entrusting this to a random mechanic who declares that he will adjust the valves. A declaration is not enough here, and engine failures concern almost exclusively LPG cars and exclusively in this area. The suspension of the Accord VIII works well. The unchanged design of the wishbone system does not bring any surprises and is characterized by high durability. The only thing that has been changed is the steering gear. Unfortunately, regardless of the type of power steering, in the Accord VIII it is electric, the gear picks up play quite quickly. However, the whole thing has been improved in terms of vibrations while driving, which plagued the predecessor. The front wishbones wear out slowly. The upper ones are cheap, and in the lower ones, only the pins are replaced. The rear suspension is maintenance-free, and the only thing that may require replacement after a higher mileage are the cheap stabilizer links. Unfortunately, the quality of the interior has deteriorated slightly. Interior elements wear out faster, and the assembly is not first class, which can be heard while driving. This was not the case in older Accords. In return, the user receives richer equipment. The weak points typical of its predecessor, namely weak and thin paintwork and low corrosion resistance, also apply to the Accord VIII. What is worse, users who have had more experience with previous generations have unequivocal opinions. The latest Accord is the worst in this respect. This applies not only to the body, but also to the chassis and running gear and brake components. Overall, the car is more delicate than its predecessor and significantly less solid than the 6th generation. Despite this, the Honda Accord VIII is a durable car, significantly superior to most models from this competitive segment D. With mileage of 200 to 250 kilometers, sometimes there are faults that users are not even aware of. Therefore, to maintain high reliability, it is worth doing a solid, comprehensive inspection of the car at least once every 2 years. Is it worth buying a Honda Accord VIII? The Honda Accord VIII is such a reliable car that the question should be, is there even one reason not to buy a Honda Accord? And here you may be surprised because I know 3. So who would I not recommend the Honda Accord in this particular engine version to? For people with large transport needs, space in the back, trunk. The solution is the station wagon version, but it should be treated rather as a larger hatchback. Alternative, Honda CR-V. People who are changing from a dynamic car, e.g. petrol turbo or diesel. They may be disappointed with the dynamic, so I recommend a test drive before buying alternative diesel. People who do not have the possibility to store their car in a garage, a much higher risk of corrosion. However, in Warsaw and the surrounding area, there is also theft, which is associated with unpleasant situations. Alternative, another car. However, in my opinion, the 8th generation Accord is a car worth considering solely because of its segment and reliability. If you expect this combination, you won't buy a better used car. If you only want reliability, the Honda CR-V or Civic are better choices. That's why I'm not surprised that Honda doesn't continue selling the Accord in Europe. In the form of the 8th generation, it doesn't make sense. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.